And right then and there, the Spirit of the Lord touched me, and I dropped that suitcase, never to pick it up again, knowing that the rest of my career, the Lord was going to be my professor. Can we put up the Psalm 1? I so enjoyed Brother John. I would like to give a perspective from someone who has never gone to college. Someone that has never studied and had academic privileges like many of you. And trust me, brothers and sisters, it was a heavy, heavy suitcase that I carried around until one day the Lord revealed to me what this scripture meant in Psalm 1. And so it's so beautiful. Psalm 1 is basically saying, blessed is the man or woman who doesn't associate himself with ungodly people, doesn't stand with sinners, but stands with the people of God. But their delight is in the Word of God, the law of the Lord. And you meditate upon it every single day and night. It is always with you. The people of God carry the Word of God within them. I love so much how John said that when you have this moment and you're young and you've got time, sometimes I look in my schedule and say, where do I have time to read God's Word? But when I was younger, and I didn't have the privilege of going to college, but I knew how to read. And on my lunch hour, as I was a meat cutter, I was cutting meat. That's what my profession was. And I didn't pick it, let me tell you. I wanted to get married. And this job taught me something. It was a decent pay, and it had benefits, and my wife needed that if she wanted a husband. And so I just picked it. Nothing glamorous. Nothing glamorous. I'd walk out of the meat shop in the middle of summer, and the bees were all over me from how much blood was on me. But I would go home on my lunch hour as a young man, and I would open up the Book of Mormon and I would read it until I couldn't read it anymore. That's how much I read the book. And I'd go back. And just prior to that, before I rendered my life to Christ, I would go on my lunch hour and drink on my lunch hour. I'd go back to the meat saw and they'd say, oh, no, son, no, because drinking was okay back then. That just shows you how crazy life was. No, you go cut chickens. Because if you go to buy the meat saw, you might get in an accident. And all of a sudden, my life changed. But I carried this baggage with me. Let's go to the next verse. He shall be and she shall be like a tree planted by the rivers. They're green. The leaves are green. The fruit always is in bloom. And whatsoever he or she does shall prosper. You know, when there's times of drought, that tree is always green and the fruit keeps coming. When there's good times, it's good. When there's bad times, it's still good. And so, brothers and sisters, I want to tell you just a quick story and then I'm going to sit down. But this was my life. And I wanted to do better. I wanted to get into sales, and I felt I had a calling for that. I felt the Lord moving me there. And many people judged me and said, you don't have an education. Stick to what you know. And it bothered me. But I kept pushing myself because the Lord was prompting me. But I carried this suitcase. I don't have an education. Everyone I'm interfacing with does. And so one day, after a year in sales, the company that I was working for, the owner of the company, seen something in me like Joseph of old. And he called me up to his office and says, at 24 years old, 25, he took his hands in his pocket like this, and he had keys, and he flipped them to me. And he says, I'm going to give you the business. Here's the keys. I said, no. To the owner, sir, you don't understand. I never went to college. I don't care, he said. I'll teach you. And I still wasn't catching on. This was from God. I'll teach you. Whatsoever you shall do, you shall prosper, because the word of God is hid in your heart and you're serving me. I'll teach you. And so a year goes by. And for the first 6 months that I had this job, Wendy's my witness, I had hives that would cover my body from head to toe. On my way to work, I'd wake up completely healthy. I'd look in the mirror, I was okay. And when I'd go to work, by the time I got to work, my throat was closing up, my hands were swelling, I was covered head to toe in hives. And I thought I was allergic to something in the warehouse. I thought I had this, or I'm taking Benadryl. In the meantime, it was all my nerves. Because I didn't believe that I could do this. I was so in over my head, brothers and sisters. Running this business with, I don't know how many people that were counting on me. One day, it's Christmas time, and it's the first year I'm there, and we took a big position on tenderloins, beef tenderloins. And then normally at Christmas time, they go up. You ought to know that, you shoppers in here. But the market went down. And I literally had $250,000 inventory staring me in the face, and the market was declining, and I didn't do anything about it. I just kept saying, it'll get better. I didn't pray to the Lord. And all of a sudden, now it's getting really bad. The meat is starting to age, and I got to do something here. And so I called 911, called the old man, Mr. Woolley, my owner, and said, Mr. Woolley, I'm in big trouble. What's the matter? I said, I got meat that's sitting here that's aging. I have no customer for it, and I'm in trouble. Okay. I'll be right down, he said. And this is a true story. I watched him. My office used to look over the dock, and he went across the dock. He went into the cooler, and into the cooler, out he comes with 2 big buckets of shaved ice. And he kicks the door open to the office, and he comes to me, and I'm on the phone, and all my sales reps were behind me. He says, get off the phone. I'm on with a customer. Get off the phone. And he put the buckets of ice down. He said, take your shoe and sock off. What? Take your shoe and sock off. Put your foot in that bucket of ice, dial the phone, sell 5 boxes, and don't take it out till you sell the 5. When you sell the 5, you take your foot out, rest a little bit, stick it back in, and dial the phone again. Pete, we got to get rid of these. I don't know what professor ever taught you that, John. But God was teaching me. The Lord was teaching me, when are you going to come to me? I knew what the Lord was saying to me with that bucket of ice. And so you know what I did that night? Everybody left the office. Everybody left the warehouse. And I went back in the warehouse. I didn't know what else to do. And I knelt on the cooler floor in front of all those tenderloins, hundreds of boxes. I said, God, I'm in trouble. Won't you deliver me? Won't you help me? The next morning I came to work. Brothers and sisters, I tell you, this is prospering. The phone rang. No, I didn't even make a phone call. No bucket of ice. No tissue and sock off. The phone rang. I understand you have some tenderloins. Big company up in Rochester, New York. Yes, I do. They bought the whole shipment. And so Christmas time was there, and Mr. Woolley comes down, and we made our number that month. We had hit our earnings number. And he says to me, by the way, congratulations on what an amazing month. Whatever happened to those tenderloins? Oh, Mr. Woolley, I said, I got rid of them the next day. And I didn't go into my testimony. That was for me. How much did you lose? He said. Remember, now we made our number. I said, we lost $18,000. And he said to me, and he knew my issue with college. He knew that. Did you learn anything? Oh, did I learn anything? I'll never, ever wait again. $18,000? You know, that's a semester at Harvard. Back in 1984, it probably was. That's a semester at Harvard, and I will spend that money any day on you if you're willing to learn. And right then and there, the Spirit of the Lord touched me, and I dropped that suitcase, never to pick it up again, knowing that the rest of my career, the Lord was going to be my professor. He was going to teach me about business, and all the acumen I needed was going to be through him and by him. And I was good. Did I have ups and downs? Yes. But did I prosper in Jesus? All because I went to him when I had issues. That's my story. Someone that never had a degree, someone that never had the opportunity to have higher education, someone that needed to trust in God, because who else was I going to lean on? I couldn't lean on my own understanding. It wasn't there. But God enlightened my mind. I thought I'd just share that with you. Prospering in the Lord is an awesome thing when you surrender to God. He'll prosper you in your choices, whether it's to pick a mate, whether it's to pick a career, whether it's in your relationships with your family, your loved ones. The Lord will prosper us if we put him first in everything that we do. That's the message today. Lord, you're first. Lord, you're first. How I pray, brothers and sisters, for our young people in our church today, all over the world, that Jesus and the church, mom and dad, that's what that is, might be number one in our lives. And if that's the case, we will prosper whatsoever we shall do. May God bless you, brothers and sisters, is my prayer.